Have you or a loved one ever watched any of these and thought,
Wow! That was shit!
well then this is the right place for you. Sorry Snyder fans, but this... and... no, we're not even gonna touch that. Has all been pretty rough. But today, we'll be taking a new look at things. Hello folks, welcome to 4-Starry. My name is Joe, and this is What Could Have Been DC Edition. Myself and two other well-meaning nerds spent about 3 hours reworking and redesigning a whole new DC movie universe. While I could go into great detail about all the little ideas we had, today we're simply going to go over our timeline of the movies and shows that we have in mind. With all that said and done, let's begin with Phase 1. We wanted to call the first phase Rebirth, both as a callback to the 2016 relaunch of DC Comics, but also as a way to signify this new era for the DC movie universe. The very first movie in this phase would be The Flash.
I know sex exists, I've just never experienced it.
Except not that one. God no. This Flash would instead be a live-action version of the Flashpoint Paradox. Not only would this movie reset the DC universe, it would also conclusively kill off the Snyderverse.
Why don't you just die?
We've seen which Flash movie concepts work, and which ones definitely don't work. Next up on the movie timeline, we have The Blue Beetle. Now, I will say, I did both watch and enjoy the original Blue Beetle film starring Xolo Maridueña, and I do believe that it should stay a mostly grounded film. But for our purposes in this new DC universe, it'll also be used to hint at other heroes who are active in the world, namely Batman and Wonder Woman, as a way to start building a perception of what our Justice League will eventually look like. The next movie up is The Batman, introducing Bruce Wayne in his second year as the vigilante hero, The Batman. In this movie, we'll be showing off more of Bruce's intellectual and detective skills, rather than just going around punching people, killing people, hitting people with his car, you know, that whole thing. In this movie, we'll also be hinting at Dick Grayson's existence and the possibility of Bruce adopting him, as well as Bruce starting to learn more about metahumans and a cameo from Wonder Woman. While it's true no one can replace Kevin Conroy,
And if it has to end, at least I go out like this, being Batman.
we are allowed to have standards.
7 million. Never leave the cave without it.
Batman will be facing off against some classic villains such as Mr. Freeze, Firefly, and Clayface, all being secretly led by the Riddler. Next up in our Phase 1 timeline is Wonder Woman. Now I'll be honest, I really do like Patty Jenkins' 2017 Wonder Woman movie, and there isn't a lot about it that I would change, aside from, you know, the end. So instead, the villain of this movie will be purely humanity and its uproot stupidity, instead of Ares just being Ares. This movie will also include a end credit Batman cameo scene, with Batman finally confirming that he does know about her, and the beginning of the Justice League actually forming. After the heroic debut of Wonder Woman, our Phase 1 timeline continues with The Flash. Barry takes on his visiting nephew, Wally West, his captain wishing to promote him, and his rogues gallery consisting of Mirror Master, Captain Boomerang, and Heatwave going on a serial bank heist all across Central City. The main point of the movie is to introduce current timeline Barry while giving you an insight into the possible future of Wally West. Following The Flash, we have our very first Justice League movie, as Batman rounds up the heroes, including himself, Wonder Woman, The Flash, and Blue Beetle, to help face off against an alien invader only known as Zod, who seeks to claim Earth as the new Krypton. The final piece of the puzzle arrives when Superman finally makes his grand debut in this Justice League movie. Phase 1 nears its end with Superman's own movie, where Clark Kent faces off against a villain known as Parasite. This movie also introduces John Jones as the Martian Manhunter as he helps Clark fight off the energy-eating monster. Speaking of aliens, our next movie is Green Lantern, as Jon Stewart is chosen to pick up the legacy of a missing-in-action Green Lantern, Hal Jordan.
You're welcome, Canada.
John is thrust into a terrible fight against a rogue lantern known as Sinestro, who's abusing the power of fear to threaten the entire galaxy. The final movie in our Phase 1 is Justice League 2, as the villain Ocean Master seeks to wipe out the entirety of the land world using the power of Atlantis. The League, now fully formed of Superman, Green Lantern, and Martian Manhunter, seek out help in the form of Aquaman, who's only known as Arthur Curry, a man who does not know what his true destiny is. With this sequel wrapping up Phase 1, we waste no time laying the groundwork for something amazing in Phase 2. Phase 2 begins a whole new arc for our DC universe, being called Titans. After the development of the Justice League in Phase 1, the world finds itself a much dark and brutal place, requiring more and more heroes to become more involved and step up. We begin Phase 2 with Doom Patrol, the very first show in our DC universe. The patrol includes Elastigirl, Robot Man, Negative Man, Crazy Jane, and Garfield Logan. The patrol themselves take on the Brain.
Dudes, check it out! Brain freeze.
In a very grounded but wild adventure filled with terrible and silly messes. Next up in Phase 2 we have Batman 2. Bruce Wayne has recently adopted the orphan Dick Grayson. However, the challenges in his life double when his company is investigated for corruption as the Court of Owls rear their heads in Gotham. After Bruce is done kicking butt and taking names, we move on to our next movie, Teen Titans. Dick Grayson, Garfield Logan, and Wally West come together to form a team of sidekicks that rescue an alien girl named Starfire, as well as retired football star Victor Stone. Their mission does get more complicated when a mysterious girl named Raven turns up on their doorstep asking for help. This first Titans movie is our first big setup to our Phase 2 villain, who is kinda obvious if you think about it. Following the Titans movie, we have our second show in this DC universe, Jason Todd. The show follows the events of Jason's rebirth into Red Hood. His thirst for revenge against the Joker takes him down a dark path where he winds up toe-to-toe against Scarecrow. While we do feel bad not going over Jason's run as Robin, we feel that there are other Robins who deserve a lot more screen time. Which brings us to our next movie, Batman 3. In this movie, Bruce and his new sidekick Tim Drake face up against their toughest challenge yet, Ra's al Ghul. Taking a leave from Gotham for a while, we move on to Superman 2. With the recent boom in metahuman and superhero events, the government seeks to find a way to defend itself against possible threats. However, things go wrong when Superman's cousin, Kara, comes to Earth with a warning about an alien overlord called Brainiac. Our next movie is The Flash 2. Barry teams up with his now protege Wally West and recruits his old mentor Jay Garrick in an effort to take down a generational threat only known as the Thinker. Far, far away, our next movie is Green Lantern 2, where Jon Stewart seeks the help of Hal Jordan's old frenemy, Oliver Queen, when he discovers that Hal is still alive, but has fallen to fear. In this movie, we seek to introduce Green Arrow as a new hero and character, while also finally concluding what has actually happened to Hal Jordan. Getting back to the main point of this phase, our next movie is Teen Titans 2. When new recruit Shazam is discovered to truly be Billy Batson, Amanda Waller makes the whole world question whether or not the League should allow children to play hero. This movie is one of the most important in our entire phase and our entire DC universe, as much of it revolves around this central phase, during which we have a little bit of a splinter in the League. Justice League 3 carries several different important DC comic themes within it, while also being its own separate movie. In the movie, Superman and Batman argue over the new governmental restrictions over who can be a hero, while Lex Luthor has finally made a monster capable of defeating Superman. The movie ends up splitting the League apart, leaving Clark vulnerable to Doomsday, who ultimately ends up killing him. Following the events of the third Justice League movie, we have Superman 3. Both the world and the League deal with the loss of Superman. This movie introduces two very important characters. Both John Henry Irons as Steel and LexCorp's very own Superboy make their debut in this movie, as the two of them question who the real threat might be between the Eradicator and Cyborg Superman. We do also have Jonathan Kent being born in this movie, because we just love to break people's hearts. After Superman, we have The Flash 3. A speedster from the future is on the hunt to kill Barry Allen. However, after he's stopped, the Flash finds himself trapped in the future. The final movie in our Phase 2 timeline is a big one, Teen Titans 3. With the League mostly off-world or trapped in the future, it's up to the Teen Titans to defeat Trigon and save the world. Phase 2 essentially brings the Teen Titans to where they are now, with most of them, like Nightwing, being a part of the League, while some of them stay behind to continue and grow the next team of Titans. Meanwhile, we move on to Phase 3, titled Beyond and Below. Phase 3's Beyond and Below starts, well, below. After the League returns from their mission in space, Arthur retires, leaving a young Calder to take his place as Aqualad. With the threat of Black Manta upon Atlantis, Calder will have to step up quick, or Atlantis will fall. The next movie in Phase 3 is Teen Titans 4, introducing our very new team of Titans post-Trigon, including Terra, Aqualad, Damian Wayne as Robin, Speedy, and Impulse, as they face another team of teenagers calling themselves Hive. Following the new Teen Titans, our next movie is Green Arrow, as Oliver Queen faces his past when Count Vertigo comes to Star City. Next up is Wonder Woman 2. As Diana finishes training her young protege, Donna Troy, her friend Minerva breaks the Amazonian code and becomes a much more dangerous threat than even Diana can take on alone. After enjoying the fury of the Amazons, we move on to Green Lantern 3. With Jon Stewart still off-planet, a young Jessica Cruz must accept her destiny as the Power Ring and defend the planet from the anger that is Atrocitus. Soon afterwards, we get Teen Titans 5. Terra betrays her team for the man who saved her life when she was young, Slade, or Deathstroke, whichever one you prefer. Honestly, they're both great. Luckily for the team, Donna Troy comes out to help. Next up on our Phase 3 calendar, we have Robin, a new show based in Gotham, as a new villain seemingly kills or kidnaps Batman. Tim Drake calls him back up in the form of Dick Grayson, Damian Wayne, and newcomer Barbara Gordon as they investigate a new villain called Hush. Extending our stay a bit in Gotham, our next show is Gotham City Streets. Multiple stories from your favorite Gotham villains and anti-heroes, including Catwoman, Azrael, Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy, The Huntress, and Two-Face. Next up, we have our penultimate movie of Phase 3, New Gods. On a peaceful mission to New Genesis, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman discover a plot to destroy Earth. This movie is, of course, our way to finally and decisively introduce the idea of Darkseid, as well as Desaad, Steppenwolf, Granny Goodness, and all the rest of the New Gods. This, of course, leads into our final movie of Phase 3, Justice League 4. After an emergency SOS is sent, the entire Justice League returns, rushing back to Earth as Darkseid seeks to obtain the anti-life equation. Joined by Titans old and new, this movie is staged to be an epic climactic battle of legendary proportions. However, it is not the end. One more phase follows Beyond and Below, so join us in our fourth and final phase, Crisis. after the world essentially almost ends due to Darkseid, our fourth phase crisis begins with something a bit more down to earth. Its first movie is Super Sons, a movie where Damian meets Superman's secret son Jonathan, and the two of them face off against a mechanical monster only known as a Mazo. Our next movie is seemingly just as grounded, Black Lightning. When a young Virgil Hawkins obtains static powers, he seeks to start cleaning up his neighborhood. However, he winds up in a much deeper investigation headed by a retired Black Lightning. Our next movie is Justice League 5, when a new team rises to the call, including Wally West as the Flash, Nightwing, Cyborg, Donna Troy as Wonder Woman, Cowder as Aquaman, Shazam, and Speedy as Arsenal. This new League team must face their greatest challenge yet in the form of Starro. One of our only Phase 4 shows is up next, Suicide Squad. The return of the classically fucked up Task Force X is required when the villain Black Mask uncovers some supernatural powers that make him one of the greatest threats that Gotham has ever seen, and with Batman missing, only the Suicide Squad can take care of things. Next up, we get a little bit mystical, with a movie about Dr. Fate. This movie seeks to bring us into our more magical arc of the DC Universe as we begin to head toward its end as well. Next up, we have another show, The House of Mystery. Equinox is taking heroes and villains left and right in the name of balance and order, warning that a great threat to the universe is approaching. So, a tiny crew of Zatanna, Constantine, and Etrigan investigate these disappearances, and the mysterious threat. Moving on, our next movie is Black Adam, but this one will actually focus on Black Adam since, he's the titular character of the movie. Next up is a bit of a controversial movie, The Watchmen. As one of our heroes begins to notice that several villains and heroes have been popping out of existence, an investigation leads him to believe that one of his fellow Watchmen might be at fault. Following that movie, we'll have Justice League Dark. The House of Mystery team invites Shazam and Dr. Fate to form the Justice League Dark, in order to take on the threat of Black Adam and Faust, who have seemingly teamed up together to seek more power. At the same time, but in a different space, the last Titans movie will be taking place, as Titans new and old join together to finally destroy the Brotherhood of Evil and Madame Rouge, the puppet master of all their troubles thus far. Now, before I talk about this penultimate project, please keep in mind that we wanted something funny to supersede all the melodrama and high-action scenes that will come out of our finale for our DC Universe. Which leads me to our last show, Harley Quinn. After Harley frees herself from Waller, Waller sends the squad after her in a funny, goofy, and completely extremely off-the-rails chase. Following that, I would also like to point out that we did have some really cool Elseworlds ideas that could potentially happen after this really cool, epic, awesome, amazing finale. So I just want to go through a couple of those real quick as well. The first idea we had was the Elongated Man and Plastic Man having to work together to solve certain crimes. The next idea we had was a actual Injustice League movie. We also had a really cool idea to actually have Shazam fight Mr. Mind in a movie as well. Finally, we had one more really cool show idea, being an Origins of Jonah Hex show, as well as a final movie, Impulse, Back to the Future. And now, what you have all been waiting for. The final movie in our DC Universe new timeline. It makes sense. You've been waiting for it. It really is the only other potential threat that would be so cool and awesome and worth waiting around for. Crisis on Infinite Earths, Part 1 and 2, because it just takes 2 parts to maximize how amazing this story could be. The warning that Equinox gave comes true in the form of an antimatter monster that seeks to destroy the entire DC universe. The League, Dark, and the Titans all join forces to try and find a way to survive, which ends our mainline universe story. If you made it this far, I hope you really enjoyed what could have been DC Edition. Even if you didn't, that's totally fine, because this is just criticism. At the end of the day, it's all just criticism over what we could have had and what many fans feel that we have lost in terms of potential, due largely in part to the Snyderverse. Either way, thank you for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe, and be on the lookout for more content soon.